Good morning, my friends. Good morning, and welcome to another gathering of our small group known as PB Reads the Bible. I'm PB. I'm Pastor Brian, pastor here at St. Andrew's United Methodist Church in Milton, Pennsylvania. Perhaps this is the first time you're joining us. In that case, welcome, welcome. What this is just like it says, PB Reads the Bible. I read from the Bible, and folks join in and follow along in their own, or listen to me read as as they multitask and do a whole bunch of other things. And then I share commentary about it to try to help open it up and explain what it means, which may not be exactly the same as what we thought it meant. That happens a lot because we tend to read too fast, and we have assumptions about things. So we take this opportunity to slow down and to break it up and to understand what was going on at the time, because that definitely affects what a passage means. Theologian Walter Brueggemann, I know I've shared this before, so if you've been with me for a while, you've heard this before. Hang in there. He said, what it means now is what it meant then is what it means now. Sometimes we flip that around and we try to make it mean what we think it means now, and that's not the case. So we have to understand the then in order to understand what it meant, and then we can apply it to our lives today. And like I said, some of you folks have been joining with me all along. Wonderful. Welcome to you joining our small group this morning as well. So since we're a small group, there's a few things we do. The first is to check in with each other, to say hello, extend greetings, romper room roll call, I've been told. So go ahead and check in. Use the comment section of the stream to do that. Or if you can't for some reason because of what you're doing, you can always send me a text, 570-351-1619. There's Crystal checking in. Good morning, Crystal. And yes, a happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Excuse me. Yes, because today is Tuesday, November 26th, 2024, and it is now 9:02 a.m., at least for me, and it's for you if you're joining live. I know some folks aren't able to join live, so you find other times to join together in our small group. So whatever time it is, whenever it is, whatever day it is, you can still go ahead and check in and mark your attendance, or share your comments or questions, because that's an important part of this too, so that we're able to share. I learn, and we all learn when we do that kind of stuff. The other thing we do, since we share life together, is keep each other surrounded and lifted in prayer. So share whatever it is that's on your hearts and minds, whatever it is that's giving you joy this week, as well as whatever's kind of weighing you down. Crystal shared a prayer request for her daughter, Lily. Lily is going to be traveling today, driving home from Messiah University. And so, yes, prayers for traveling mercies upon Lily and upon all those students. Let's start with the students who are traveling today and heading home. And as well as the people who are going to be out and about, starting their travels to Thanksgiving week. And I'm not telling you anything you probably haven't heard a gazillion times just this week. Is one of the busiest travel weeks of the year, if not the biggest. And more people travel more than 50 miles one way this week, each way this week, than any other time of the year. And there are going to be millions of people out on the roads today, and tomorrow is going to be even worse. Tomorrow's worse than today, so we're thankful for that, right? But yes, so prayers for traveling mercies for Lily and for all those. Good morning, John and Cindy. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you all. Yeah, and so Thanksgiving is Thursday, 2 days from now. Normally, we would be having another small group session, a small group gathering of PB Reads the Bible, because we do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Not this week, people. Not this week. Okay? Today is it. Today is it for this week. And then we'll be back at it next week. And I should have brought up my calendar just to make sure that was correct. But I can do that while I'm talking. It's one of the few things I can multitask on, I guess you might say. I can handle that. It's not too hard to do. So yes, today is going to be our last session for this week and for this month. For this month, we might say too, because the end of November, Saturday is the last day of November. But we will be back at this next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, so Tuesday, December 3rd, and Thursday, December 5th. Now, if you've been, excuse me, if you've been joining with me at all, you know what I'm going to say next. Between Tuesday and Tuesday comes Sunday. That's right, Sunday. So we will be, of course, having Sunday school and worship on Sunday, December 1st. First Sunday of Advent. First Sunday of Advent. And we're going to be starting our new series, which is called The Light of the World. And week 1, Advent 1, is our theme is expectation, hope in the darkness. That's our theme, expectation, hope in the darkness. So please join us for that. Unused applications. All right, close out a couple things. Maybe that'll help. Internet. You think you have great internet and you still end up with issues. Anyway, so yeah, we'd love to have you join us for our new worship series, which you can learn more about if you wanted to watch the video. It's nothing fancy. I just put together a quick promo video. You can find it here on Facebook. You can also find it on YouTube. I uploaded it yesterday to YouTube, along with if you've been going through the Bible 101 with me, the video from 2 weeks ago has been uploaded. There's none from last week because we didn't have a session last week, but we will be having one tomorrow, and I promise I will do my best to not take 2 weeks to edit that one and put it together for you and upload it. But the most recent one is now there on YouTube. And I know some of you folks are there. Chocolate flavored tea. Not exactly my cup of tea, but it's there, so I will drink it. I will make use of it. Part of that, I don't know if you saw it. If someone purchased for me a tea advent calendar, and yes, it's not Advent, but I did break into it anyway. Okay. So continue to post your stuff, continue to check in, continue to put in your prayer requests. Excuse me. Again, even if you're not joining us live, if you're not joining our session live today, you can still put those things in. I do go back in to see what it is that you've been sharing, and if you don't expect a message or a reply at 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that if you're texting me. I won't even hear my phone, I'm sure. So, good morning, Sharon. And yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I pray you're feeling better today, Sharon. It's wonderful to have you joining with us today. So, my friends, we're working our way through Genesis, and we're on chapter 20. That means we're 40% of the way through the book of Genesis. Yeah, because there are 50 chapters in the book of Genesis. So we're 40% of the way through. We're getting close to the end of the story of Abraham. Only a couple more chapters, and then Abraham kind of goes off to the side, and somebody else takes center stage. That's a spoiler alert. I should have given a spoiler alert on that. Sorry, my friends, something in my throat. All right. Chapter 20 is not a very long chapter, and I'm going to say there's probably not a whole lot for me to say about it. I'm going to say a few things. Actually, one of the things I'm going to say is right up front, the story is out of place. The story is definitely out of place. If we think chronologically and linearly with time, a linear execution of time, A happens, then B happens, then C happens, then D happens, etc., etc. Okay, so it's November 21st, November 22nd, November 23rd, November 20th, etc., etc. You get what I mean, right? If we think of that, and we think that this book has been put together in that way, and the story of Abraham and Sarah is put together in this way, the story is just wrong. Okay, It's obviously not in the right place chronologically. Why? You'll see why in like the opening verses of this story, right? So if it's not, why is it here, right? Why is the story in the book at all? Why is it included in the story of Abraham? And if it didn't take place at this point, if it took place at all, and it didn't take place at this point in history and in their lives, why is it here? That's what we need to discover, right? That whenever you find something that just seems super out of place, remember a couple things. Remember to ask the question why, and what am I supposed to do with this story? But also remember what took place just before it. Okay, so chapters 18 and 19 are actually important. Stop saying kind of, right? 18 and 19 are important to understanding why chapter 20 is here where it is and why it's telling what it is. Okay, it's a little more theological and understanding of Abraham than anything else. All right, so chapter 20, let's read it. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the region of the Negeb and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While residing in Gerar as an alien, Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." And King Abimelech of Gerar sent and took Sarah. Pause. Notice that language, right? Sent and took. Sent and took. Didn't ask. Right? We're going to hear this same kind of thing in other places in the Bible. The same language is used with David and Bathsheba. That he sent his guards, he sent his people, and they took Bathsheba. People point at Bathsheba and say, "Oh, she was like Jezebel." No, she had no choice. Really, here she had no choice either. Hey, remember, it's the king. It's good to be the king. King can do whatever he wants, or at least that's what they think. And so the king sent and took Sarah. Now, if she was the 94-year-old woman, it's circa 94-year-old woman that we just read about, it doesn't make sense that he would want to send and take her. Does it? I don't think so. So we see right off the bat this it doesn't make sense if we read it literally and we read it as chronological. So why is it here? Okay, picking up from there. Verse 3, but God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a married woman." Pause. Now, remember back to chapter 12? I think it was chapter 12. Similar story, similar situation, but taking place in Egypt. In Egypt. And Abraham had Sarah lie, or at least stretch the truth, in order to protect himself. It was all about protecting himself. It was all about protecting himself. What was it about? It was about protecting himself. And he's doing the same thing here, to protect himself. At what cost? At the cost of Sarah. At the cost of Sarah, he's looking to protect himself. But also remember from that story back in chapter 12, this was the point I was going for, Brian. We learned that it was considered, adultery was like worse than murder. So they could have killed Abraham and kept Sarah. So here we're seeing something similar, right? But God says, "This woman, you're going to die because of this woman, because she is a married woman." God almost seems to be setting up a new reframing what's important. Reframing what's important. Not that murder isn't bad, but don't think of adultery as a less of a crime. He seems to be telling Abimelech, especially since you're doing it, your own power. You're using your power, and you're inflicting your power on this woman. which of course is still an issue today. People imposing their power upon others, especially men upon women. Yes, and it takes place in the political world and the governments. It also takes place in the church with pastors. We have to take trainings, special trainings, boundary trainings, and we are required to keep those boundaries in place. And there are times when clergy break those boundaries, and consequences happen. Nobody gets killed, but consequences happen. Picking up from there, verse 4. Now Abimelech had not approached her. In other words, he had not yet had sex with her. So he said, Lord, will you destroy an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. I did this in the integrity of my heart, in the innocence of my hands. Then God said to him in the dream, yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart. Furthermore, it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours. Pause. It's very interesting. This is the first time Abraham is named as a prophet. He doesn't fit the figure of a prophet, we might say, and he does not have the prophetic call narrative, which we'll talk about at some other point. Is not used when he is introduced or at any other point in his journey. But God here names him as a prophet, but his job is to pray for these other people, for this other people, for Abimelech and his people. But if you don't do it, then you'll die. You and all that are yours. So the sin, the transgression, isn't going to be limited just to Abimelech, but the consequences of what Abimelech might do is going to affect everyone. That's important. It's going to affect everyone. So, debating, do I say this now or okay, we'll continue reading. Verse 8. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things. And the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us? How have I sinned against you that you have brought such great guilt on me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what were you thinking of, that you did this thing? Abraham said, I did it because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this is the kindness you must do me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham and restored his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, my land is before you. Settle where it pleases you. To Sarah he said, look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is your exoneration before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves, so that they bore children. For Yahweh had closed fast all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. And end of chapter 20. I told you it wasn't really all that long of a chapter. So, interesting things. Let's finish up this last piece. Right? So Abimelech goes to Abraham, and we see this almost judicial proceeding taking place. And Abimelech is the might almost say the prosecuting attorney, right? He's leveling charges against Abraham, and he's asking him questions. Notice what Abimelech does not do. He never mentions God. He doesn't say, "Hey, God came to me and told me all this." He doesn't say that. Perhaps because he wants to see what Abraham's going to say. Maybe God told him to do that too. We don't know, right? But he doesn't say, "Hey, God told me," or "Your God told me." He just says, "Hey, you've done terrible things to me. Why? What have I done? What have I done to you that makes you act this way to me?" Abraham's response, well, first of all, he tries to justify himself. Well, she really is my sister, or at least my half sister. My half sister. She's my father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter. And then she became my wife. But he says in it, because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place. Okay? Because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place. And yet, who is it that was afraid of God? We're just told, of course, Abimelech and all the men of the community. Because Abimelech brought all the men together and told them everything that's going on. They're all afraid. They all have fear of God. And it almost seems like Abraham all of a sudden does not. Does not. And then Abimelech gives Abraham a whole bunch of stuff, more stuff, to add to his accumulating wealth. Gives him all kind of sheep and oxen. He's got more slaves, which you should never have, and gave all that to Abraham. And then he tells him. So this part is very similar back to chapter 12. That's what the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, did, was give him a whole bunch of stuff. But he sent him on his way. He said, "Leave." Abimelech doesn't say that. Abimelech says, "My land is before you. Pick a spot. Pick a spot. It's yours." And then he says to Sarah, this is like a judicial pronouncement, we might almost say, "I've given money to your 1,000 pieces of silver to your brother." Doesn't give it directly to Sarah, right? Gives it to your brother. He still calls him brother, even though he was husband. To exonerate, for your exoneration, and you have been vindicated. So that proves to the community that nothing untoward happened. That Sarah and her reputation have not been tarnished in any way. Okay, that's what that whole thing says. And the last verses, Abraham prays to God, and God heals Abimelech. We're not told what the illness is, what the situation is, but he heals it. It almost sounds like it has something to do with procreation. And if not Abimelech, then definitely the women, because God also heals his wife and female slaves so that they bore children. For Yahweh, and this is the very first time in this chapter that God's name is used. The editor wants to be clear that it was God who had closed fast all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah. Because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Now that does, though, perhaps leave the question hanging unanswered because of what happens in the next chapter. Spoilers! Because of what happens in the next chapter, it almost leaves us wondering, was Sarah's womb also healed at this point? So that's the whole breakdown on this passage. Now, what's the theological point, and why is it placed here? So we remember chapters 18 and 19, right? 18 starts off, you've got the hospitality, and you still have hospitality here because Abimelech is being very hospitable but Abraham isn't quite responding the way a guest should. He's lying to him, and gets him in trouble with God because of his lies. So, right, we're not seeing the same Abraham that we saw. We're also seeing an Abraham that doesn't seem to have his strongest faith taking place here, that God will protect him. God has made promises. He still doesn't have the son, the seed, through Sarah that God has promised. So he shouldn't be worried about, oh, they're going to kill me because of you. God isn't going to let that happen, because that's part of the promise, right? If you believe the promise, then believe that God will take care of you. So he doesn't seem to be doing that. This shows a weaker Abraham than we saw in chapter 18. Now, remember also in chapter 18, when Yahweh tells Abraham what he's going to be doing because of the injustice of Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's definitely injustice taking place here in Abraham's actions. Abraham is the one who is not being just. But in chapter 18, when God tells that to Abraham, Abraham pleads on behalf of those communities, those unjust communities. Abraham pleads on behalf of them, and God changes her mind and is willing to relent, but things are too bad and can't. But here, Abraham doesn't think that the people are even worth it, apparently, right? He thinks that they're not even afraid of God. There's no fear of God in them. So, and yet, at the end, praying for those people, for God to heal them and not kill them, is what Abraham is called to do, and is successful. So I think that the point of this passage and why it's put here is to show, well, first of all, I would say to show that Abraham wasn't always perfect. Okay, Abraham was not perfect, and he didn't always have that wonderful faith and obedience that we always lift him up for. He was a failed human being, just like everybody else. And we can see him almost falling, like a backslider in this point. From that high point of chapter 18, he's slid down a little bit. The other thing to point out, and I should have done it was verse 13. He said, when God caused me to wander from my father's house. When God caused me. It's interesting language there. God didn't cause Abraham to leave his father's house and leave all the land. He asked. God called Abraham to do that thing, and asked him to do that thing. He didn't cause him to. So Abraham, almost distancing himself from saying that he had anything to do with it. Anyway, okay, so that was chapter 20. And again, today is Tuesday, November 26th. Thursday, November 28th, 2024 is Thanksgiving, so we will not be having a session of our small group, a gathering of our small group on Thursday. We will be back at this, folks, on Tuesday, December 3rd at 9 o'clock a.m. Between Tuesday and Tuesday is Sunday. So Sunday, December 1st, first Sunday of Advent. Come join us. We have Sunday school at 9 o'clock. That's in person only, of course. 10:30 we have worship. We have our worship experience at 10:30, in person and live stream. So we would love to have you join us in person. If you're anywhere in the area, unless you're not feeling well, then please stay home. But if you're in the area and you are feeling well, you're comfortable being around people, please come join us for worship 10:30. If that's not possible, join us for the live stream, also at 10:30, right here on Facebook. And yes, I know I keep saying soon to be also on YouTube, and it will be. We're going to be taking care of that soon. So, my friends, I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something or relearned something, that God has spoken to you in some way. As you go about your days, not just today, but every day, especially on Thanksgiving, When you be on the lookout for whatever God, our living, loving, active God, Yahweh, is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, thank you, God, especially on Thanksgiving, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.